Dips don't destroy your shoulders. Throwing, colliding, falling in a precarious position. These are the things that lead to shoulder issues. And that's why I'm gonna give you a shoulder progression to help you execute dips perfectly. And we're gonna start right now. So dips can actually save shoulders in some instances. We've had athletes that can't press on a normal bar, but because of the neutral position of your hands, you can actually execute dips without causing shoulder distress, as long as you do the right technique and the right mobility movements. The first thing that we should be doing is getting set almost in this hollow position. And you wanna actually sort of think about pushing your belly button back. And that's gonna help us come a little bit internally rotated when we get set here. A lot of individuals who tend to have that shoulder pain when we get into shoulder extension, which is where we're actually hitting when we're doing dips, is that they'll dive bomb, okay? So they look like this, and they start to like swing back and forth when they're doing dips. This is actually literally what they do. And so that causes a lot of shoulder stress. So we wanna set that hollow position, sort of squeeze through your abs here, feet back very slightly. I want my feet back right here. I wanna lower, get my elbows back, hold that hollow position, drive back up. Another big factor is that I usually don't like to lock out at all. One, I can't lock out my right elbow. Two, if you don't lock out at the top, your triceps will be absolutely destroyed. And I do think that there is a point that it has a little bit less stress on your shoulders by not locking out. You have a little bit more time under tension for your triceps. Your triceps also will be recruiting in conjunction with your shoulders quite a bit at the top. So if we get to the top here, I wanna come down nice and controlled, hold that hollow position, drive back up and squeeze here. Notice, I'm still holding this position. I'm not coming super upright with my shoulders back. So that's the big factor here, is we have to execute with simple technique. Our max dip should be about 117% of our best bench press. So if you bench 405, take that, multiply it by 1.17, and that should be what your max dip would be with your body weight included and then weight on the belt. You can use that as a way to build into that max dip. Now we're gonna give you those shoulder fixes that you can use so you can start to execute that proper technique. If you wanna enter to win this free Swole shirt, all you have to do is comment down below, make sure that all of your channel notifications are active, and then show up to our Tuesday YouTube live to find out if you can win this. Now, we're gonna try and get those triceps nice and swole so you can blow up your dips. The dip is executed in shoulder extension. And one of the big questions then is, does shoulder extension cause stress on the shoulders? When we lower our torso, our elbows get behind our torso and rise up. And we've got to look at different reasons why this might actually cause some type of stress. And the reason being is that we won't actually know if that shoulder extension is causing more stress unless we work through specific tests. And there's a couple different things that we can do to test this out, understand if it's the shoulder extension that's a problem, or if there's multiple other problem areas that we actually have to hit to try and alleviate that shoulder stress or that shoulder impingement that we feel when we're doing a dip. So the first two things that you can do is, one, you can just hang bands off of an elevated point. Put your hands behind your torso and try and push down and see, is there any type of stress in the front part of your shoulder? Is there any type of stress that you're even feeling potentially in your sternum? If this is the case, well then we can see, all right, shoulder extension might be the problem for you individually, and we'll provide some solutions. The next step, you could even do something as simple as a dip on a bench. Then we can see with shoulder extension, is that causing the actual problem? Is the shoulder extension the problem here? If that's the case, we can go through different progressions to try to alleviate that pain. So the next two areas that might be a problem would be based off of your anterior delt mobility or even your pec mobility. So if we can test in those specific areas, do you have really tight pecs? Do you have really tight anterior delts? If you do by doing these simple tests, well then we can start to figure out, all right, these are areas that we need to lengthen to try to alleviate that impingement. And then the last two areas that we're gonna specifically look at would be, do you have really tight biceps tendon, okay? So do you have a very tight biceps tendon that is leading to that shoulder issue? Or do you have really weak external rotation in your rotator cuff? That's a very simple test just based off of doing a dumbbell external rotation. But if we can go through all these specific exercises and then see where you're feeling any type of stress to try and work towards executing that optimal dip technique. So now we're gonna go into a 3-part dip fix protocol. I want you to do these 3 specific exercises every single day before you're gonna do dips. You can do each one of these exercises for 3 sets of 30 seconds to each side. And if you can do this, 3 days a week, 4 days a week, or before every single dip workout as well, I can almost guarantee you will alleviate all of that shoulder stress that you feel, or even that sternum stress that you feel when you're doing a dip. So we're gonna start with the sleeper stretch. It's gonna be focusing on mainly the shoulder and the mobility in the shoulder. Now, one thing that I like to think about here is, if you noticed when I did the standing stretch with my pec and my anterior delt, my left side was much tighter. Now, when I do a sleeper stretch, what's ironic is my right side is much tighter. So it's finding that area. We're gonna be lengthening the rear delt quite a bit here and coming back up. And if you have some sternum pain here, this is something that probably is going to help quite a bit with that, alleviating that sternum issue. So you come back down, come back up, and then try to, let's say you do, 10 to 12 second passes, and then you can get to a point where you get down in that 3rd set and you're almost perfectly flat here. Now you can see I started to come up. Ideally, you're gonna keep that head a little bit flatter here to focus on lengthening that shoulder girdle. Okay, so the sleeper stretch is an absolutely fantastic stretch to help improve that. One of the big aspects that we use inside of our app Peak Strength is that not only do we use dips quite a bit, but we also focus on mobility. After you hit a big time workout, we want to improve that mobility, and you can even use the mobility prior to training. That's a big important aspect around achieving peak strength and becoming an elite level athlete. Now, the next stretch that I want to get into is going to be pec and deltoid focused. Okay, so we're going to be lying here. I'm going to come over top, and I want to feel up in my upper back and also into my pec and into my anterior delt a nice stretch. You can see my elbow can extend. Okay, and I can come back over here. Come here, I'm gonna go 10, 12-second passes, and I'm gonna come back over. So this is a scorpion stretch. This is another one that we use inside of our app. It's a great stretch to lengthen the pec. So if you were doing those pec tests and you felt it in your pec, you felt it a little bit in your deltoid, this is where you could really be focusing on. So I'm gonna come back here, stretch, and I wanna even try to focus on really lengthening through that delt, through that pec, count 10 to 12 seconds, and we can do that for 3 sets of 30 on each side, 3 sets of 30 on each side. Now, the last one that we're gonna do is gonna be focused on our thoracic spine, a little bit of our pecs as well, our lats, and this will be the 3rd exercise that really finishes off this entire dip fix protocol. Again, you've got to do this stuff consistently. You've got to hold yourself accountable to get in and get the mobility work done. And one of the best parts about Peak Strength is that we even have push notifications to make sure you're getting your workout done, to help hold you accountable even with streaks inside of your training. So head over to peakstrength.app, the Google Play Store or the Apple iOS Store, and you can download Peak Strength today to improve your mobility so that then you can execute your dips as well as possible. Now, the T-spine roller, this one's gonna crush me. I'm gonna throw my sweet Run the Jewels shirt out of here. This is our garage strength prototype right here. Is going to be absolutely fantastic. And even if you suck at racking a clean, this is another great one to really help lengthen the lats and a little bit of the lower pecs and even pec minor. So you can start here, just roll back and forth. Remember, 3 sets of 30 seconds. Now, we wanna grab onto the PVC pipe here and start to roll. Oh yeah. And ideally, you're gonna feel this in through your trunk and then in through the bottom part of your pecs and then even up into your upper back. Oh, I can feel that in my delts like crazy, especially my rear delts. Oh. So we can do passes back and forth. And then you wanna work those hands even more, a little bit closer to your head, a little bit closer to your head. And ideally, really opens up that upper back, lengthens your chest, lengthens your shoulders, and then you can get into better shoulder extension positions. Now, we've given you the mobility exercises. Do these 3 to 4 days a week, and then now we're gonna work into an actual dip progression with specific strengthening exercises that you can do in conjunction with these mobility movements so that by the end of the video and the end of the next 10 to 12 weeks, you can execute a weighted dip without any shoulder pain. So one of the biggest things that I learned directly from Charles Poliquin was actually increasing the strength of your rotator cuff can lead to, one, doing better pull-ups, but two, most importantly for our video, hitting bigger dips. So you hit those mobility stretches before every single workout. Then the first strengthening movement that you can do for the first 4 weeks is going to be a dumbbell external rotation. Now, what I like to use is an 8.5 to 10% percentage of your best bench press. In this case, I've got a 25, right? So I should be able to do a controlled set of 5 to 7 reps with a 25-pound plate or 25-pound dumbbell here if I can bench press 250 pounds. Now, if I can bench press, let's say 350 or 400 pounds, let's say 400 pounds for our case, I should be able to hit this even though I didn't warm up. Boom, come down nice and controlled. Back up. Now I'm swinging a little bit. I should have warmed up that left side prior to doing this. Boom, one more. Swaying a little bit. We want that nice controlled position. Back up. So you want to hit dumbbell external rotations, 3 to 4 sets, 5 to 7 reps, build up to about 8.5 to 10% of your max bench. After you get to that point, then you can work through the rest of this progression. Now, the next 2 exercises that I'm going to combine here, we're going to go into pipe push-ups. So you can hit pipe push-ups, focusing on that neutral grip. And this is going to help strengthen your triceps while also lengthening the out of your pecs deep in this position here. So for the first 4 weeks, you can hit 4 sets of 12 to 17 reps of pipe push-ups. Now, one of the things that I talked about was if you have tight shoulders or pecs and you're doing the test with the bands behind you. That's the case. 1, you've got to hit the mobility exercise that we talked about. 2, you can do a set of pipe push-ups and then you can do fake dips. Okay, so fake dips would be here and you just squat, come back up. So it's a little bit easier. And then as you advance, you can move those feet a little bit further apart, okay? A little bit further away from your center of mass. If these are really hard, you move them really close and you try and get nice and deep. And where you would feel stress, let's say I feel stress right here. I wanna go through a slow eccentric, okay? Slow, 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 back up. And then as I would get stronger through the weeks and I'm lengthening that shoulder girdle in my pecs, go slower here with my feet further away, come back up, and then all the way to here, okay? So the whole point is that we're pairing a set of push-ups, pipe push-ups, then with the fake dips, going back and forth. And then that's gonna take us into that 4th key strengthening exercise to set you guys up to smash those dips. So we started with the dumbbell external rotation. Then we led into the pipe push-ups and we supersetted that with the fake dips. Now I wanna start to add a little bit more load and I'm gonna give you 2 movements where we're gonna have a heavier load and a crazy, crazy stretch. And then that last progression is gonna be one of my all-time favorite calisthenic movements that you can use to really build your core and teach you how to hold that hollow position. So wait till the end of this progression to see that. But we're gonna start with dumbbell neutral grip. Now, a lot of athletes and a lot of people that have shoulder pain when they do dips, they can't do neutral grip bench. So what we wanna see is actually holding here. You can come down, go deep, come back up. Deep, come back up. Deep, come back up. A lot of athletes that have that shoulder pain will bench, dumbbell bench, like this, where they'll flare their elbows super out to the wide part there. And that's almost similar to what they do on the dips. And that's actually just reminded me when we did the dip technique, I didn't talk about don't flare your elbows out like this, because that can potentially, for some people, lead to quite a bit of problems. So we wanna keep this nice neutral position, get deep, drive up. Get deep, stretch, 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 drive up. Stretch, boom, drive up. Now, okay, that's the one progression there. Now we're leading into more weight, more stretching. My all-time favorite tricep exercise. Comment down below if you guys know what that is before I even say it. I hope all of you guys, all you freaks out there, know what movement I'm about to show you. And of course, I recommend using the Garage Strength pad as target. Some of our throwers here at Garage Strength like to do this exercise with 150 pounds and then dump the dumbbells all over the place. And then we have to duct tape the dumbbells back together because they just want to dump everything all over. So use that not only as a target, but also as a means of protecting your equipment if you're training by yourself in your gym, in your garage. So we are going to do the Miracle Grow, which is why I'm wearing my hat backwards. This is where we're gonna lengthen, just like the T-spine roller. So I hope you guys are starting to see these exercises that we're showing you are also related to the mobility movements. We try to connect everything together to optimize your structural growth. Now, I'm gonna put it overhead. Put it on my chest. Diamond grip, straight up. I wanna lengthen, 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 lengthen. Come down, stretch, and I can feel that in the exact same spot where we did that T-spine roller. Deep, lengthen those triceps, lengthen the lats, lengthen that lower pec, back up. Try to hold that hollow position right here. Remember, in the dip technique, holding the hollow position is key to not having that stress on your sternum or your shoulders. And that's what the Miracle Grow can teach you. Hollow squeeze. Hollow squeeze. So when you're doing the dumbbell neutral grip, you're doing the Miracle Grows, you can do 5 sets of 7, building up those presses. 5 sets of 9 on the Miracle Grow. Build up structural integrity by lengthening everything, getting really, really strong. Lengthening is strengthening, contrary to what Joel Seaman will tell you. Now, this last one, the calisthenic one I talked about earlier, this is where we're gonna see, we don't want the elbows to flare. We wanna hold that hollow position, and we wanna get stronger specific to dips, because now, after this, we're gonna progress into some really heavy dips. And this is gonna be called a cannonball dip. Now, we're in this position here, holding this, squeezing. Come down, come back up. Come down, come back up. Come down, back up. So if you're somebody who swings back and forth on the dips, you're gonna look like this. We don't wanna see that. We wanna see straight down, straight up, holding hollow, knees back, just like our feet should be over on the dips. And if we're strong enough to get to the point where we're hitting heavier dumbbell neutral grip presses and we're doing heavier Miracle Grows relative to our body weight, now we can hit these cannonballs, 4 or 5 sets of 12 to 17. And ideally, we should be in that position because of that hollow hold. We're gonna have less sternum issues. Because of all the mobility exercises that we gave you earlier, we should be alleviating that stress. And now we can lead into the last part, and that's gonna be adding crazy dip exercises to blow up your triceps and your pecs. So now the next one that we're gonna use our Strength Powerlastic band, available at GarageStrength.com. And remember, I talked about not locking out at the top. Don't let your elbows flare. And this is why I love this banded movement, is that we're gonna get here, we're gonna come down, and the time under tension and the band pulling down. Right here, the band is pulling me down and blowing up my triceps, okay? So that makes it really, really challenging. The other factor is that to prevent the band from falling down my back like it just happened, that happened because I stood up. If I stay a little bit more hunched forward here, that's gonna make me have a hollow position. So the band teaches you how to have that hollow position that gymnasts have mastered so that they can do dips all the time. You do 5 sets of 17 on the hypertrophy day. Now, this is where progressing into the major portion matters, okay? We've done all these exercises. The big goal was that we could push our dips to 117% of our best bench. That's what we told you in the beginning. So the whole point of this was that we could get you to the point of 1, being able to execute a dip without shoulder pain, without that sternum pain, but 2, get you strong enough with the progression that now you can do weighted dips and work up to that 117%. So we want to get to the point, we load up some weight, and if you're one of the swingers, no, not those swingers, if you're somebody who swings on the dip bar quite a bit, you'll tend to see the weight shifting all over the place. So we're gonna get here, hold that hollow position, come down, back up. So if you can get to the point, it's 100 pounds right there. So for 100 pounds, I weigh about 220. So what is that? 320 pounds. So right now, I gotta try to get another 100 plus pounds on that, get that for 2 to 3 reps. These are all key points of being able to consistently execute dips without hurting your shoulders, your pecs, even your elbows. So if you guys need help with your training, head over to peakstrength.app. You can download the app for 7 free days. During those 7 free days, you're gonna get 5 free workouts. And in those workouts, not only are you gonna have dips, but you're also gonna have those mobility exercises to help optimize your performance. Because remember, freaks, if you wanna become a champion, you've always gotta cultivate your power. Peace.